Opposite Gloves here, and this is the 11th video in the Harmless from the Ground Up tutorial series. And today we are going to be taking a look at the effects section down here, and that will actually cover everything we need to know about Harmless. After this video, I will probably put up the final video in this series, which would be creating some sort of a song using just a crap ton of Harmlesses. Maybe not an entire song, but a good chunk of a song. And so let's just really quick get to this. So all this down here is your effects section, and they actually recommend in the manual to just go ahead and use post-processing stuff if you intend to get detailed with this sort of a thing. But let's just go ahead and cover it. So you'll see right here we have normal and high quality. This has to do with just the quality of sound you're getting out, resampling and other things. And what normal is just normal, easier on your CPU load. High quality does some resampling. And then they have this thing that's like extra high quality. When you render a song in FL Studios, it's switched to that one. And so you get the highest quality possible. Now threaded has to do with multiple core support. So I have 8 cores, so I turned it on to improve my performance. So it kind of shares the load on your computer. So the rest of these effects, chorus, delay, and reverb all work on the idea of a feedback loop. Now chorus is the most obvious, and it's really general chorus. There's only a mix knob really. And so a choir, when they're singing a note, everyone's singing one note, but they're all a little off pitch. So all of these change the pitch a little bit. It's very similar to the unison. However, chorus is less intensive on the CPU load. So, and it's cloning the signal you're sending it as a whole, whereas over here it's moving individual clones around. So the first one is classic, and it sounds pretty much like a choir. And quick note, on this particular tutorial series, I have disabled the limiter down here, so you can hear it distorting. It's clipping right now. You can hear that sort of crunch in the sound. And let's go over here really quick. And we have this compression section. It's a dynamic section. And I just want to demonstrate one principle real fast. You have one called limiting. And limiting prevents the signal in Harmless that's going out from going above 0 dB. So if we play our sound now, it's taking anything that goes above 0 dB and quickly turning down the volume so it doesn't clip, essentially is what a limiter does. And we have one right here that I've turned off, and it has this line right here, and if anything goes past this line, it says no, you go back down, go below the line, so you don't get that distortion. If we turn the limiter off, you can hear it with it on. And so that's what the limiter does, and it has to do with the performance inside of Harmless. If you turn the channel volume up over here, or if you turn the mixer track, if you send it to a mixer track up, it will not govern that, just so you know. So that's what limiting does, just real quick. And let's go back to, so I just turned the limiter on in FL Studio, so they have this on by default. It's actually it actually does this by default, raises, which is bad. So you hit Alt to reset that. Some people just turn it off on their templates. I leave it there. What the heck, you know? All right, so let's talk about this jazz. And you can see that when things go above 0 dB, it's turning them down. And this is bad, not recommended for mixing and things, unless you're have something real specific in mind. So we have chorus. So that's what the first one does. We just have a whole bunch of different kinds, and they take the feedback loop, so it's cloning our signal and sending it back in, and it behaves in a whole bunch of different ways. So that one's a little different. And if we turn our unison up, you can hear it begin to take effect. I'm going to turn on high quality just because I can. We have a flanger. Now, a flanger is actually a specific way of introducing a signal, delayed signal back into your sound. And the thing about, I say delay, but this delay is within like milliseconds, and your brain cannot perceive that distance. It's so fast that it sounds like the original tone. And so that's why I say delay, and you might be thinking there's no delay there. Well, there is. It's just ridiculously small. And that's your typical flanger. And you can hear a little like wee, and it's going between your two headphones or speakers if you're listening to this in stereo. And that's one of the trademarks of a flanger. Now this one stays still. So I guess not a trademark to a flanger, but it's a common thing a flanger tends to do. You have a stereoized, which you can guess is going to mess with your stereo field with the delayed signal. And we can actually see that quite clearly here. The blue is left and the green is right, or it could be the other way around. One is one and one's the other. So that's what stereoized does, modulation. I believe from the looks of it, looks like, I don't know. It's a modulation of some kind. And the last one's vibration. It looks like it takes each individual partial and actually moves the pitch around just a little bit, which is pretty cool. So that's what the chorus does. Delay, you have 3 settings here and 3 different kinds of delay. You have your classic. What the volume does is it controls how loud the effect is. Feedback is how many delays actually happen. So this is sort of the echo people are used to hearing. If you're in like a big canyon, you could equate that to the delay. And then you have time. And time just controls how quickly those echoes happen. And you can actually see if we hover over it and look up in this corner, you can see the ratio when we drag that it's at, because this is actually tempo synced. So this could be useful for matching it up with your tempo. If we turn our, as you can see, it loops forever if you put feedback all the way on. So you may not want that. Time, if you spread that out, it could take a long time. There it is. If we turn the volume up, so that's classic. This is ping-pong. And this is stereoized. So you can hear the delay. So ping-pong, you can hear it go from one speaker to the other pretty clearly. And then stereoized, you can hear it go from one to the other very, like, sort of like, if you know what a flam tap is on a snare drum, it's where one stick hits right before the other one hits. So it goes, but it's like so close that it's almost the same hit. That's pretty much what's going on, only in a stereo field. So that is delay. Pretty simple elementary effects. Reverb. Now, what happens is if you are in a room and you yell, your voice bounces off all the walls. And by the time, so there's something called early refractions. Then there's like medium and late. And each one of them serves a purpose. Early refractions are mixed in with the original signal. You can't tell them apart. Late refractions, however, the signal's coming at you from all directions, and it is what gives you room sound. It's and there's billions of these refractions, and you cannot tell them apart. They sound like a wash to you, and it's reverb. And so what this does is it has an algorithm that takes your signal and simulates that, and they have a whole bunch of different rooms that they would simulate that in. And there's all these sort of ways of going about making reverb, but it's a cool option for having inside your patch. And you can control the volume of that reverb. And that's pretty much what that does. So that's reverb. We have our compressor, and we already talked about the limiter. We have now there are 2 compression sections. There's warming and heating, and this actually uses the plugin Maximus. So if we really quick open up Maximus, I guess just to show you the plugin, it's using the same engine that this uses to do it, but there's sort of like preset effects. So you can't totally control, like you can if you were to open up Maximus, how the compression works. But this demonstrates a good principle. So let's unpause it right now. So right now, Maximus, you'll see we have audio going through it. And what a compressor does is it takes the volume, and so we have a really quiet volume, let's say over here. I'm using a keyboard, so it's not the best example, but let's say we have our quiet volume and then we have our loud volume. And it will take this and say, oh, this is quiet and this is loud, and it will make this one louder and this one softer and sort of bring it to a happy medium. And that's what compression is in a nutshell. Like there's all this like kind of philosophy about how to go about this and what's okay and what's not okay, and we'll talk about that later. But essentially what this does is it does that. It takes the quieter stuff and bring it up, and the louder stuff and bring it down, so that they're brought together. And then you can take that brought together signal and pump that up, and you get like a really loud sound. But it's like now a philosophy, because some of it was originally already as loud as when you brought it down, but now you're pumping it up together, and there's just all these weird things. But this is what's called a multi-band compressor. So it says it can look at spectral volume. So if we play a sound, that's how loud our highs are. That's how loud our mids are. You'll notice our mids are louder than our highs. And this is how loud our lows are. And our mids are quite a bit louder. And what you can do is you can compress the different spectral bands together to get a sound. So a louder sound, or, it's a compressed sound. So what warming does is it does that in a specific way. There's only one way. Like obviously Maximus is a plugin completely devoted to doing this, so you can do whatever the heck you want. But with this, you can't. You just can turn the mix knob up and see if you like what they have already. And so mix sort of just brings the mid higher range out a bit more. And heating just is a more intense version, basically. You actually see the high end that didn't even exist in the original signal start to be brought up when the mix is all the way on. You see it goes away super fast, like almost not even there. And then with the mix on, look at all that extra high end. So that's what it's doing, because it says the high end's really quiet. We need to bring it up a lot. And so it does. And then there's this last one, distortion. And let's really quick look at the waveform of this guy. So this is basically what's happening. If we were to play our sound, it's distorting it into a square wave type shape. To demonstrate this, let's turn our equalizer on. And so that all we have is sine wave. And when we turn it on, we see it gets shoved into this shape, sort of like a square wave, but not quite. Reminds me a little bit of Massive in their parabolic and sine shaper options. But that is what that does. And those are the effects in Harmless. And now you know pretty much everything there is to know about Harmless. There'll be one more video after this where we make a track with Harmless. And just something cool. And let's go ahead and make a sound real fast, just featuring, let's make a chorus sound. So let's make a lead. I have not made a lead yet, so we'll make a lead. And we need some sort of a good melody if we're going to make a lead. So we're going to turn it up to 128. And for any lead, it needs to have legato and porta on. Maybe not porta, but definitely legato. Oh, okay, not every lead, but this lead will. All right, so let's say we've got our awesome melody. Let's see here. I don't know why I decided to play in a major scale, but this is pretty high too. There you go. Let's say that's our melody. What the heck, And we'll just turn the volume down just because it'll be annoying. That's pretty cool. Let's turn this back up. Let's add some additional sine waves. I love how I touch the keyboard track and I still don't know what it does. But yeah, there we go. We have some sort of lead, and we used pretty much everything. Took me a while to figure out that the distortion was on still. Because yeah, that distortion, man, kills leads. If you have any questions about this, drop them in the comments. Check out my website, composergloves.com, and subscribe, of course, and share this video series with someone you think would benefit from this. And have a blessed day.